Okay, let's get started. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. How is everyone doing today? Good, alhamdulillah. Okay, just to get an idea, how many people here are in middle school? Okay, anyone less than middle school? How many people in high school? Okay, a couple of people. College? Okay. Okay, that's good, alhamdulillah. So we have a pretty wide range. Okay, let's get started, inshallah. So today, inshallah, we will be talking about reflecting on the Quran. Is anyone, okay, this is going to be interactive, so I need to make sure that everyone is awake. It's getting kind of late. How many people have ever heard of the word tadabbur before? Tadabbur. Yeah, what does it mean? Kind of, you're close. Tadabbur, anyone? Tadabbur means, yes. Kind of, tadabbur means reflection. So then, how many people have heard of the concept of tadabbur of the Quran? Reflecting on the Quran. Anyone? Okay, what did you hear about it? Okay, but you heard about it. Okay, well, that's good. Okay, so reflecting on the Quran. Why would we need to reflect on the Quran? Isn't it already just good enough? I mean, we can just hear the Quran, read it, someone tells us the meaning, or we read the translation, that's good. Is there anything more that's needed? What do you guys think? Yeah? Okay. To understand what the surah means, what it describes. Okay, anything more? Why would we need to, what would be the point? Because if we read the translation and maybe read the explanation, the tafsir, wouldn't that be more than enough? Would we need to do anything more? Would reflecting on it even be necessary? Yeah, what do you think? Okay, what do you mean by that? Okay. Okay, so we'll come to that. That's a really good thought, and we'll discuss that, inshallah, in just a few moments. Why else would we need to, so I always thought that there's maybe no need to reflect on the Quran, because if anything, I can just read the tafsir, read the explanation, and that's good enough. I figured that if I ever try to reflect on the Quran, then whatever I come up with is going to be not as good as what I could hear from a tafsir, or what I could read from a tafsir, or hear from the imam or the sheikh. Then why should I reflect on it myself? Because I can get something better by hearing someone else's explanation. So that's what I always thought for a long time. Anyone else ever think the same thing? No? Anyone not think about it? Okay, maybe no one. Okay, only one person didn't think about it. Okay, okay. So anyway, so I always thought that there's not really any need to reflect on it. But then, what might some benefits be? What do you guys think if we actually reflect on it? We heard one thing over here. Who was the one who said that? Yeah? What's your name? Amjad? Okay, we heard one thing from Amjad. What else?
Sorry, start this with a small announcement.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, boys and girls, sisters in the back, we have pizza for everybody, okay? So make sure after the program ends, you go downstairs and have pizza, okay? Sorry.
Okay. So I was saying that if we reflect on it, then what's the point? Because can't we just read the explanation or listen to the imam explain it? What's the point of reflecting on it? Has anyone ever thought that maybe the Quran has a lot of good stuff, but has anyone ever thought that, I don't know, I don't really know how to relate it to myself at a personal level? Has anyone ever thought that before? Yeah? See one person? No one ever thought that? Has anyone ever thought that maybe I can relate it to myself on a personal level, but I don't know how? Okay, sort of. Okay, so what are you guys thinking? It doesn't seem like anyone is thinking any of these things. So you guys just tell me. What's on your mind? So what have you thought about the Quran? Okay, let me just ask this. Has anyone ever reflected on the Quran before? Has anyone ever spent time just thinking about it? Yeah? Has anyone ever actively done it? So maybe somebody recites a portion of the Quran or mentions it in a khutbah and then we hear something, then we might reflect on it in the moment. Has anyone ever, instead of passively reflecting on it or responsively, reactively reflecting on it, has anyone ever actively done so? Saying that, okay, I'm just going to put everything away for 5 minutes and just think about a verse of the Quran. Okay? Okay, that's good. If anyone has done that, did you find any benefit in that? If so, what was it? Yeah, go ahead. It gave you more questions? Like what?
When you read Surah Al-Baqarah and you read the translation, and it is like a person, like, what is the purpose of telling the story?
Exactly. So then when we start thinking about it, then it leads us to understand it at a better level. Because questions, as we just heard, will arise in our minds that maybe we never thought of before. And then we'll be able to appreciate it a lot more deeply. Then another benefit of reflecting on it is that we'll gain a personal connection to it. As I was saying, it might be that the Quran, we know about it, and we might even hear a story in it, but then we don't really know what that means for us or what we do with it. So then what do we need to do to bridge that gap? To understand how we should use it? Anyone want to take a wild guess? Just think about it, reflect on it, right? So what, yeah, go ahead. Ponder over it, yeah, same thing. So ponder over it. So what are some benefits that thinking about the Quran, pondering over it give? So far, we said that it leads to more questions. And that's a good thing, because what that does is it deepens our understanding. It deepens our understanding. And then, what else does it do? What do you mean? Critically think about? Like,
Anything, you can relate it to almost anything in the world.
there you go. So then now, if we reflect on the Quran, we're actually able to relate it to anything in the world. In other words, it becomes more real for us. So the Quran might be, in some senses, it might be kind of theoretical, in the sense that we might not know how to actually apply it to ourselves or to the world around us. And in order to bridge that gap, then what do we need to do? Anyone want to take a guess? Think about it, reflect on it. So then, what did you say again, in short?
Critically think.
Critically think. And then you said, what benefit does that give us?
Helps you understand it more.
Right, understand it more, relate it to the world around us. Okay, relate the Quran to the world around us. Okay, we could be relating it to the world around us. Is there anything else that we can relate it to that perhaps may be even more important to us than the world around us? You can say it. Ourselves, yeah. I mean, okay, not to sound egotistical or anything, but to every single person, the most important thing to them is probably themselves, even more than the world around them. Right? Generally, this is how people are. So then now the Quran, it might be difficult for us to figure out what we're supposed to do with it, what it means for us. So we can relate it to ourselves. So let's put that. Okay, we relate it to ourselves. So these are some benefits to it. Now, one question is that if we think about the Quran, then could it be that we end up coming up with the wrong meaning? Isn't that bad? Yeah. And that's not a good thing to do because we're not supposed to distort the meaning of the Quran. So then we have kind of a problem because on one hand, we're talking about how it's good to think about the Quran because we'll relate it to the world around us, relate to ourselves personally, it deepens our understanding, all these things, but we don't want to distort the meaning either. So do we see how this is kind of a problem? Okay, so then what are we supposed to do for that? How do we still think about the Quran but not end up distorting its meaning? Because we might not be a scholar of tafsir, that's okay, not everyone needs to be. But then how are we supposed to engage with the Quran then without distorting its meaning? Does anyone have any ideas?
Probably by referring to multiple sources.
Okay, so that's definitely a good start, referring to multiple sources, very good. What else? Yeah?
Also, don't go all in, like little by little, read surah by surah, try to understand one thing first, and then go on to understanding more.
Okay, that's true too. Someone can still ask the question though, what if in that little portion that I'm understanding or trying to understand, maybe I might make a mistake in that. So, but that is true. Part by part is good, taking in bite sizes, but the problem might still arise. So anything? Yeah?
Reach out to those who know.
Okay, very good. You reach out to those who know. So if we have a referee, it's always good. Alhamdulillah, this masjid is blessed with an imam, so there's always someone that we can ask. But then in general, what are we supposed to do? So what we'd say is that there's, let's erase some of this. Okay, so there's two types of reflection on the Quran. Okay, so to make it very simple, I call it inside and outside. Anyone want to tell me what those mean? Any of our middle schoolers here? Reflecting on the Quran inside, meaning inside the text or outside the text. Yeah? Okay, that's part of it. Anyone, any of our high schoolers? Yeah? Focus on the words. Okay, that's definitely part of it too. Focus on the words. What would outside mean? Outside the text. I'll give you a clue. We already talked about it a little bit. Okay, that's good. But then what the tafasir give you is mostly stuff that's explaining the meaning of the text. So outside of the text, what I mean, yes? Close, but actually even more simple. Here, let's talk about it. So inside the text. Okay, inside the text and outside the text. So inside the text means so understanding the words or the verses at a deeper level. Outside the text, I'll give you a clue. We already talked about it a little bit. What would that be? Exactly, how we relate them. And what do we relate it to? Our life and what else? As we said, the world around us, right? Okay, us and the world around us. So this type of reflection on the Quran, it's good to do. But then the problem is that we might end up distorting the meaning if we haven't already thoroughly studied it. So this part, we should try to refer to just those who know. And then if we want to do it, then we can do it with a referee. So a scholar of the Quran who can kind of help us through. So it's good to engage in it, but then better to engage in it with somebody who can help us through because we don't want to distort the text. There might be a verse that maybe seems clear and straightforward, but then there might be a hadith that we don't know about that's in some random hadith book, and that tells us that it actually means something different, but we won't know about that, right? So for example, there's that. Outside of the text though, so if you're relating the verse to us, or relating it to the world around us, then, well, is there really a fear of distorting the text? Who said yeah? How's that? Not really. So if we're just saying that here's a verse, now how does it relate to me? Or what can I do about it? Then we're not necessarily saying anything about what the verse means, right? We're rather just trying to connect it to us. So then that won't really be a distortion of the text, or even the world around us. So what we're going to do for the next maybe 15, 20 minutes or so is that let's just try to go through some practical examples. Okay? So then I'm going to give a prompt, and then we'll think about it, and then we'll kind of sort of move on from there, and we'll see how we can reflect on the Quran. So this part, doing it inside the text, this is something that I'd say that we do perhaps in the presence of scholars. This part we can do every day. And then one of the benefits of reflecting on the Quran, Allah says, we'll talk about two of them in addition to what we already said, then we'll just jump right into it. Allah says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Do they not ponder over the Quran? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, they're welcome to respond as well, inshallah. Yeah. They can, inshallah, whenever there's a question or anything, they're always welcome to respond, inshallah. So, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. So do they not reflect on the Quran, or is it that there are locks on their hearts? Okay, let me say that one more time. Allah says, do they not reflect on the Quran, or is it that there are locks on their hearts? Okay, how many of us want a lock on our heart? No one? No, I said how many people want a lock on their heart? Oh, yeah, hands down. Okay, no one. How many people, okay, so then the question now is then, if the Quran says, do they not reflect on the Quran, or are there locks on their hearts? Then what does that mean? If we reflect on the Quran, then what might happen? Exactly, we can open the locks on our hearts. Now, what do we think that it means? The sisters can respond. What does it mean to open the lock on your heart?
I got somebody. Hold on. You become more receptive to the blessings around you that Allah has given you.
Good, you become more receptive. Your spiritual eye opens. And then, okay, that's very good. Let's hear something from someone over here, one of the brothers. What happens if the locks on your heart open? What does that even mean?
You become more of a student. You want to learn more.
Okay, good. You want to learn more. Very good. And I heard something over here, yeah? Makes you more mindful. Okay, let's hear one more thing from the sister side.
Hold on, I got someone.
You don't become ignorant.
Okay, don't become ignorant. Okay, the easiest thing of all is that you become closer to Allah, right? So then now, if our hearts are locked up, may Allah protect us, then it's going to be very hard to get closer to Allah. But then if our locks open, then that's how we can get closer to Allah. And that's what everyone wants to do. So the way to get closer to Allah, to put it in short, is what? Read the Quran, but not just reading, ponder on the Quran. Okay? And now even if we think that, well, I already know what it means, a person can reflect on, there are scholars that have taken certain verses and reflected on it for over a year. And each day that they reflect on it, they come out with more and more meanings. So the Quran, so there's a hadith that describes the Quran saying, هُوَ الَّذِي لَا يَشْبَعُ مِنْهُ الْعُلَمَاء. It's the thing that the scholars, the people that know what it means, they can never get enough of it. If anyone was going to get enough of it, who would it be? The people that already know what it means. Because they already know, they read it once and that's good enough. But then the people that know what it means can never get enough of it. So why is that? Because in other words, they're always able to extract more and more meaning from it. right? The people that know what it means. وَلَا يَخْلُقُ عَلَى كَثْرَةِ الرَّدِّ. No matter how much you repeat it, it never gets old. So that's the Quran. So the more we reflect on it, the more it'll make a lot of sense to us. So I'll just mention one story about the whole locks on the heart thing. It'll be nicer if, I'll just explain it, inshallah. That would be nice for the verses to be displayed, but I'll just explain it. Okay, so one time I was, I think I was in high school at this time or something, maybe college, I think I was in high school. And then I went to the local library, and I saw that there was a section on Islam. So I said, oh, well, that's great, let me read about Islam. So then pretty much all the books on Islam were all about why Islam is bad. So then, but I didn't know that, I just said a section on Islam, so this is good, this is what I should read. So I started to read it, and then it talked about all the objections against Islam. And then I didn't have responses to most of them. I was just in high school at the time. But I knew that they were wrong, but I didn't really have responses. But then what happened is that I started to feel a very heavy spiritual weight on me. I just started to feel a darkness over my heart. And I just felt really bad. I just felt sort of this cloud over me. Has anyone ever experienced that before? Yeah? Okay. So then I didn't know what to do. And I didn't have responses to those objections. But more than that, I just felt this darkness. So, I just took out the Quran, just opened up to any random page. And I wasn't necessarily even looking for an answer. All I did was, I just started to read. It happened to be the 25th juz, happened to be the last surah of it, Surah Jathiyah. And I started to read, and I didn't even really know Arabic at that time, but just knew a little bit, and the translation, of course, is available as well. Allah Ta'ala says, Hamim. تلك آيات الكتاب تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم. Allah says that this is a revelation from Allah, who is Al-Aziz Al-Hakim, the most mighty and the most wise. So then now the book was talking, that I was reading, the book about Islam, was talking about why Islam is wrong, and hence that means why the Quran is wrong. And the first thing that I read is telling me that forget all of that. This is a revelation from Allah, the most wise, the most knowledgeable. And then that means that if Allah is the most wise and the most knowledgeable, that means that maybe there's something I don't know the answer to. But Allah definitely has the answer. And if it's a revelation from Allah, and He's definitely much more knowledgeable than any of us, then we should trust it. Then it says, إِنَّ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Indeed, in the heavens, in the earth around us, are surely signs for the believers. And then I thought, well, all these objections are there, but why don't I just look around me? MashaAllah, in Utah, we're so blessed that we can see signs of Allah everywhere we look, right? So you can see the mountains, you can see anything else and say, wow, who made that? Well, definitely Allah made that. So that is enough of a sign. إِنَّ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَفِي خَلْقِكُمْ. I was taking, I think, AP Bio at the time. It says, in own your own creation. وَمَا يُبُثُّ مِن دَابَّةٍ آيَاتٌ لِقَوْمِ يُوقِنُونَ. And in animals, there's definitely signs. I had studied ecology, so there are definitely signs for those who have certainty. So then I thought, wait a minute, those objections are whatever they are. But then why don't I just, the Quran itself, what is it telling me to do? If we just look at the world around us and we just realize that there's signs everywhere, then whatever those objections are, whether we know the answer or not, those will just begin to dissipate. Because already what's pointing to the existence of Allah and the truth of Islam is more than we can even enumerate. And then it goes on to say all these different signs too. And each one was hitting me like a blast in my face, opening my eyes. And then finally at the end of all of it, says, تِلْكَ آيَاتُ اللَّهِ نَتْلُوهَا عَلَيْكَ بِالْحَقِّ. That these are the verses of Allah that we recite to you with truth. فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. That which other speech are you going to believe if you're not going to believe this? I felt like it was speaking to me personally. Even though I had read those verses before, but that was the one time it really hit me. And then right after that, it said, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ أَفَّاكٍ أَثِيمٍ. That woe be to every person who lies and sins. And I said, wow, if I let these doubts and this dark cloud overtake me, I'll end up being like that. May Allah protect us all. And then it's saying that which other thing are you going to believe if this isn't going to convince you? فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. So I felt that the Quran was directly speaking to me. And then all of a sudden, that dark cloud that I felt that was on my heart just disappeared. And I realized that, it took me some years later, I realized this more. But when we reflect on the Quran, then what does it do? Opens up those locks that are on our hearts. And then, as we said, that means a lot of things. We heard that it makes you a better student, makes you more mindful, makes you more receptive, makes you want to learn. But more than anything else, it will get us closer to Allah. And that's what reflecting on the Quran does. It doesn't even have to be anything deep. But then just the mere act of engaging with the Quran is something that gets us closer to Allah Ta'ala. So what we'll do, and anybody can do this. We said the first part, doing it inside the text, might be, we should do it with the scholar, right? It can maybe lead to some distortion. We don't want to do that. Outside of the text, that's definitely something that we can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give us a few prompts. Some will be a little bit easier, some will be a little bit harder. And it's a verse of the Quran I just want us to reflect on, and then we'll just discuss our reflections, inshallah. So we'll do like maybe 3 or 4 examples, inshallah, and then we'll just close with that. Okay? Sound good enough, inshallah? Okay. So, so I will write them on the board. The sisters, I don't know if they can see the board through the screen or not.
Yeah, we can, don't worry.
You can? Okay. Okay, so there are going to be a few short ones. We will have like maybe 30 seconds or something to think about and reflect on it. And then there's going to be 1 or 2 longer ones. Well, maybe we'll give ourselves like 2 or 3 minutes. Okay? Okay, so. Okay, so apologize, the board is kind of shaking as I'm writing, so it's coming out a little bit weird. But this is the verse. Suna Allah alladhi atqana kulla shay. It's in Surah An-Naml in the beginning of the 20th juz. And it means that this is the magnificent doing of Allah who has perfected everything. So what I want us to do is spend like maybe 30 seconds reflecting on it. And then the idea is that we try to relate this to the world around us, such that we open up our inner Quranic eye, that we see something around us in the world and we say, oh, Suna Allah alladhi atqana kulla shay. That is the magnificent doing of Allah who has perfected everything. So again, the idea is we'll think about it for about 30 seconds, so just be in silence for that long. And then we'll try to relate this to something that we know in the world around us. Okay, and then we'll hear from everybody, inshallah, in just a moment. If anyone has a notebook or something, you want to just write it down, you can do that too, inshallah. And then we'll hear from each other in about 30 seconds. Okay, so anyone have anything that they can relate this to? Let's hear maybe 2 or 3 quick responses from the sisters, and we'll hear a couple from the people over here, inshallah.
As someone who's studied the human body, I've always found fascination in the specific example I gave was the synchronicity of the human heart and how it's able to regulate blood pressure in perfect harmony with gas exchange, and how that's continuously going on every millisecond of the day in all of our bodies. And subhanAllah, it goes unnoticed to most of us.
SubhanAllah. Okay, what a beautiful example, mashallah. So all of us heard it. But so these are things that go on in our body at every single moment without us even realizing. But then if we take a moment, we stop and we reflect, we say, wow, Allah has really perfected everything, even things that we don't even think about. That's very good. Let's hear one more from the sisters right now.
This is another science one, but it's the gravitational pull of the sun on all the planets. Because if the gravitational pull is higher, the planets would collapse inside of the sun, and if it's low, then the planets go off their orbit. So the fact that they're all on their orbit and revolving around the sun, it's not something that we could do.
Wow, okay, so all of us heard that, mashallah. And then in addition, we have an interaction of 2 forces, the gravitational force of the sun, which pulls planets towards it, the centrifugal force, which if anyone has ever spun like a ball on a string or something like that, goes to the edge. So you have these 2 counteracting forces, and then the planets stay in place in their orbit. And now if you think about it, there has to be a very strong force that sets that planet in orbit in the first place. And then who's doing that? Allah alladhi atqana kulla shay. Very good example. Let's hear a couple over here. I saw a hand somewhere over here. Yeah. They said it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Gravity. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, the earth having water. Okay, very good. Yeah, let's hear one more. Animals. What about animals? Animals are cool. Okay, yeah, that works. Okay, yeah. Okay, photosynthesis is amazing. Yeah, mashallah. Very good. Okay, yeah. Okay, mashallah, very good. Okay, yeah. The water cycle is amazing too, mashallah. All of these things. So the idea is that we have to have this spiritual eye or this Quranic eye open. When we look around us, there's so many things that are amazing. The signs of Allah are in every little thing around us. But then if we just look at it, if we don't even look at it, don't even notice it, then, well, we're not going to get anywhere. But if we have this ayah in our minds, for example, Sunna Allah alladhi atqana kulla shay, and every single thing that we see is an opportunity to reflect on that, then with every passing moment, we'll be getting closer to Allah Ta'ala. Let me share 1 or 2 from my own side. One thing that has amazed me is the sperm whale. So has anyone been at the bottom of a pool before, like the deep end of a pool? Has anyone gone a little bit deeper? When you start to go deeper, then what do you feel? You feel a lot of pressure. And naturally, because there's a lot of water on top of you, so you're going to feel the weight of it. Yeah? Okay, yeah, that's true too. So then now, a sperm whale, does anyone know how deep it can dive? A sperm whale, yeah. About 3,000 meters. And then now, shouldn't anything be crushed at that depth? We would think so, but it's fine. And actually what a sperm whale can do is it actually collapses its lungs at that depth so that they're not crushed under the pressure. I read that, I'm like, wow, Sunna Allah alladhi atqana kulla shay. On top of that, something even cooler. The sperm whale has an organ in its head called a spermaceti. What happens, it's kind of like a waxy substance. And then when the sperm whale is diving, then that waxy substance congeals into a hard thing. So it acts like a dead weight that pulls it down, that allows it to dive better. And then when it wants to come up, then it softens, so it becomes almost like a balloon that just pulls it up. That's really amazing. And every single animal, organism, or human being, like anything that we look at, then we'll realize that every single process that it has, every organ, organelle in a cell, It's all just reflective of Sunna Allah alladhi atqanu kulla shay. The examples can go on and on, but for the sake of time, inshallah, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let me give another one. The idea is reflecting on the Quran and then relating it to the world around us. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, so the verse is the ayah. It's at the beginning of the 12th juz in Surah Hud. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. There's not a single organism on earth except that Allah provides for it. Okay, and the sisters can see it, inshallah. Yeah. Okay, so again, 30 seconds, inshallah, and then let's just reflect on this. Let's try to find what this means to us. And if there are any amazing examples of this that may come up in our minds. Okay, let's see what we can come up with. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, are we good? Okay, so let's hear it. Again, we'll start with the sisters.
I just wanted to say, on a microscopic level, you've got the smallest unit of life, which is like the cell. And we have cells in our bodies that are being provided for, subhanAllah. And then it goes all the way to the biggest animal that's ever existed, the blue whale, which needs an abundance of food, but it's still provided for. So to think of that range of all those animals that fall between, or organisms I should say, that fall between those two categories of from the small to the big, it's all being provided for, and it's something we don't really, we don't think about. This is within Allah, right?
Okay, very good, mashallah. So every small organism, from a cell or a single-celled organism to the biggest of organisms, the blue whale, Allah provides for them. Very good example, mashallah. Let's hear a couple more. Let's hear from somebody over here. Anyone? Yeah.
So, an example would be a person, so a poor person that doesn't have any money and
Yeah, and this is very good. Keep on going. What you're saying is great.
Allah gives him rizq.
Very good. Okay, so what he's saying is that something for all of us to reflect on. Naturally, as human beings, sometimes people go through easy times and things are easy financially. Sometimes things might be kind of tight financially. May Allah protect us, but that's just sort of the cycle of life. Things sometimes are easy, sometimes hard, right? And Allah indicates this in the Quran as well. So now when things are a little bit tight, then what's your name? What's your name? Sayyid? Okay. What Sayyid is telling us to remember is that Allah is always going to provide for somebody, even if things are maybe a little bit tight. So it's easy for people to lose sight of that. But then it's important to remember that وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا, that Allah is going to provide for everyone. Yeah.
I want to add what I said. So like he gives him risk without like them noticing, basically, without them knowing.
Sure, without them noticing. Very good. Okay, let's hear one from the sisters and then another one from the brothers over here.
I have one.
My example is from watching my backyard chickens that know to like scrummage through the leaves to find insects to eat, as well as digging themselves a hole in the dirt so they can bathe themselves, and that's the way they like keep themselves healthy. And similar to what the brother was saying, I think we can use that as an example for ourselves to trust in Allah's provision for us.
Very good, mashallah, very good. Okay, let's hear one more over here. Yeah. I saw your hand? Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about the monkey fish, the little tiny fishes that I was looking at the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah?
Yeah, those little fishes in green.
Uh-huh.
And it's fascinating that seeing like they have little description about their life cycle, like how they lay their eggs.
Uh-huh.
Think about all that. It's mind blowing to see that.
Yeah.
They don't really like they gain their nutrients within the surrounding water, and everything's provided by Allah.
Mashallah.
It's amazing to see all those things.
Beautiful example, mashallah. Okay, so can we hear one more example? I'll share one or two from my own side. If the sisters have one more, inshallah, they can share. Then I'll hear one more from the guys over here.
Here, this isn't a sister, but he wants to say something.
Hear this, please. I want.
Never mind.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I saw a hand somewhere. Yeah.
It means that Allah got your future plans for you.
Okay, perfect. Very good advice for all of us. Allah has our future plans for us. Very good. Okay, a couple of examples I thought of. One is, has anyone ever seen emperor penguins in Antarctica? Maybe not in real life, but at least seen them on a screen or a picture? Yeah. Okay, so then they live in some of the harshest conditions of any organism on Earth. It's very cold, the coldest place on Earth, very dark for a lot of the year, very windy. It's just not an easy place to be. Has anyone seen their huddle? Where they huddle together to protect themselves from the cold, and then they move around, take turns being on the outside of the huddle and the inside of the huddle. Yeah, so even in a place like that, where it's the harshest condition, arguably one of the harshest places to live on Earth, but Allah still provides for them. That's pretty amazing. Something that arguably is even more amazing. It'd be nice if I had a picture to show you. I have one on my screen, but then it's okay. Has anyone heard of the Yeti crab? Yeti crab. Yeti crab. No? Okay. So it's a crab that has very hairy arms. And it lives at the bottom of the ocean where there's very few organisms for anything to eat. So what happens is that since there's no food around, it farms its own food. So on those hairs that are on its arms, it grows these bacteria. And it lives by these hydrothermal vents, which itself is pretty amazing because we had thought that previously, I guess ecologists had somewhat of a conception that all life at some level or another on Earth is sustained by the sun. But then what people found is that near these hydrothermal vents, they're actually teeming with life. And that's so far away from the sun's reach that, I mean, there's really like not really any reach of the sun there whatsoever, but those are teeming with life. So now this is amazing. We just heard about photosynthesis. Someone who talked about photosynthesis? Yeah, okay. Oh, you did? Okay, okay. Well, I guess multiple people can think about photosynthesis. So then what happens is that these Yeti crabs, they farm their own food, this bacteria on their arms, and those bacteria convert, create sugar for them or create food for them through a process called chemosynthesis. So it's like photosynthesis, but photosynthesis we know requires the light of the sun. Instead, what they do is they take energy from these hydrothermal vents the bacteria that they farm convert that to food. That's really amazing. So even at the bottom of the sea, إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. Allah provides for it. That's really amazing. Okay, anyway, so that's another one. So then we'll go through one or two more. Okay? And then the idea is that we just take the Quran and we try to relate it to ourselves. Okay, so here, we'll go through one or two more. So this one will be a little bit longer. Okay? I wonder if I can request your assistance. Yeah. Okay, so here on the left side, I'll write the Arabic of Surah Al-Asr, and you can write the translation on the right side of Surah Al-Asr. Al-Asr al-Insan lafi khusr. Yeah, do not. What we have over here is Surah Al-Asr. Wal-Asr, I swear by time. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Indeed, man, or humanity, is in grave loss. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, except for those who believe and do good deeds. And وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, advise each other to the truth and to advise each other to patience. So this surah, some of the scholars have said that if the entire Quran wasn't revealed and just this one surah was there, it'd probably be enough, because it's so comprehensive in meaning. So what is all of that? So what we'll do is we'll spend maybe just 3 minutes in reflection, and then we'll open the floor for sharing after that. So inshallah, so if you have anything that you can write on, please do so. And then if not, then you can just think about it, inshallah. And inshallah, then we'll inshallah circle back in about 3 minutes. So this one will be a little bit longer, but hopefully it'll be more impactful as well. Okay, so inshallah, let's see what we came up with. Who would like to start? Yeah?
That man is set for failure except for the ones who follow and practice the teachings of Allah.
Okay, so he's saying man is set for failure except for those who follow and practice the teachings of Allah. That's right, very good. Anything more? No, okay. Yeah?
So, والأسير إن الإنسان لفي خسر. If you think about it, the most important asset we got is time. Like looking at the world around us, like even the entertainment industry and all, the main objective is to snatch that time away from us, like the attention focusing and all. Except those who believe, because when you believe, you gravitate naturally toward goodness, like it impacts your surrounding, you know. You advise people to do good because you will utilize your time in more productive way instead of losing, like, instead of doing something else with the time.
Let's hear something from the sisters.
As a reaver, I've experienced the peace that comes from intentional submission to Allah while simultaneously reflecting on my previous state of mind and holding concern for those who I love, who I see struggling to find purpose in our materialistic and frivolous society.
Okay, very well said, mashallah. Let's hear something else from the sisters.
Okay, so I basically think it shows that how it's like you're losing humanity in your generations. Every generation is losing at least 10% or more. And if you like believe in Allah and like you're doing the stuff you're supposed to, then you won't advise like other people to like go do bad stuff with you. You think about it before you do it, unlike other people who nowadays just do it without thinking about it.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's hear something from someone here. Yeah.
We all come about hard times, and when we're going through difficult times, we feel increasingly more isolated. So it's important to advise each other to be patient because we don't know what everyone else is going through.
So just to add on to that, that was really good. So the last part of it is what tawassaw bis sabr, that advise each other towards patience. So as the brother is saying that people naturally go through hard times, everybody does. It's important for us to be on the lookout for somebody who is experiencing that, or maybe recently experienced that, and then be there for them. With tawassaw bis sabr, advise each other towards patience. Of course, we have to do that in the best way. Don't just go to somebody and say, hey, be patient, but rather offer them the emotional support that they need, right? Consoling somebody who's bereaved, somebody who's lost a loved one, somebody who's having a tough time at work, or whatever it is, tough time in school. Very good. That was great. Let's hear maybe one or two more, and then we'll close. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's right. That's true. Yeah.
After the generation goes on and on, like when it comes to day of the judgment, which is like Qiyamah basically, like only the الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات, like the people that are Muslims and they have patience basically, we're the ones who's like they're gonna have the good deeds. But
Okay.
Nafi also means like the people that do not understand like what the religion is, and like they don't have that much of belief in it. Like as a hadith, I think the Prophet said.
So, okay, that's very good, mashallah. Jazakallah khairan. That's very good. Okay, just to add on a little bit to that, one or two more things. Just a reflection, just a general reflection for, I mean, all of us probably had the same thought, that this oath is by time. And then the next verse, ayah, right after that says, indeed man is in a state of loss. And then what's the connection over there? With each passing moment, what have we lost? A part of our life. And then each moment that goes by, we lose more and more. So we're in a constant state of loss. And the way that we can kind of reverse this, or at least lessen the loss, is by maximizing our time in doing good, which is what's mentioned in the last ayah, the 4 things that we should do. And what's the greatest form or thing that steals people's time in today's day and age? Anyone? Social media, or actually phones. Yeah, I mean, social media, people see on phones. Exactly. If a person gets a ticket, may Allah protect us all, and then they have to pay $200, and how do you feel after that? Do you feel great? You feel, oh man, why did that happen? You feel sad the rest of the day. But then now if a person spent 3 hours on the internet just doing nothing, watching random, like 2 minutes of one thing on YouTube, 2 minutes of another thing on YouTube, and then 3 hours go by, then does anyone feel that, oh man, what happened? No. But the 2 commodities that we have is our wealth and our time. Which one is actually even more important? Our time. But yet we feel a stronger connection to our wealth than we do to our time, because we'll feel a greater sense of loss. But Allah is calling our attention to the fact that our most important commodity that we need to give the most attention to is time. Okay, so with that, inshallah, I think we will draw it to a close. Jazakallah khairan to everybody for their wonderful contributions. And the idea behind all of this is that the Quran is there for us to engage with. Allah Ta'ala tells us again and again to reflect on the Quran. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. As we mentioned before, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ. That Allah has revealed the book, it's a blessed book, so that we can reflect on its verses. Then of course we discussed that we shouldn't do so in a way that we try to determine the meaning of the verses, because we don't do that with a scholar. I mean, alhamdulillah, if we do have a scholar with us, alhamdulillah, this masjid is blessed with an imam, then that's fine. We can just check our understanding with the scholar. But then if we're on our own, then an easy, surefire way to still fulfill the objective of reflecting on the Quran and getting all the benefits that we talked about, personal connection to the Quran, deeper understanding, closer connection to Allah, opening up the locks in our hearts, the way that we can do all of that and at the same time not distort the meaning of the Quran is by connecting the Quran to the world outside. And that's what we did. We looked at various examples of that. So the point is that we need to sort of keep our Quranic eyes open. So now my question to myself and everyone else is, who thinks that they can take at least maybe, let's say, 3 minutes a day, if not more, and just try to devote it to reflecting on the Quran? Does anyone think that they can do that? Inshallah, may Allah Ta'ala give all of us tawfiq, inshallah. We ask Allah Ta'ala accept from us all. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. Jazakumullah khairan to everybody. And as Mawlana Shu'aib has reminded us, alhamdulillah, there is graciously pizza for everybody. So everybody is invited, inshallah.